Do, 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 do. Well, hello there, and welcome back to Knuckle Sandwich MMA. Just getting around to putting out my my thoughts and opinions on the card, and I got to tell you, it was a great card. Another great fight, a whole bunch of series of great fights. Lots of submissions. I believe there were 6 submissions in this one, and 2 or 3 knockouts, if I recall correctly. Now, normally I just do the main card, but I got to tell you, I watched the prelims, every single one of them, and there were some great prelims too. So I wanted to touch a little bit on the prelims. The fight of the night, I want to talk about the most, and that one was Rafael Fiziev and Diakese. Let's see, hold on a second. Yeah, and Diakese, that was a main card fight, but that was my favorite fight of the night. That's why I want to start off with that one. We'll jump around a little bit because I'm so excited. I am so excited. I don't know. I'm telling you, there's so many sleeper hits, and these international fighters, these guys that are coming out from all parts of the world and fighting. There's some tough Russian dudes, tough. There was a guy from Abu Dhabi that won on the last contest, and then this card. What can I say? There's so much talent out there worldwide. I'm anxious to see who they fight next, because there's some monsters out there. So my fight of the night, my pick of the night was Mark Diakese versus Rafael Fiziev, and this fight was amazing to me. And the reason why I labeled this the best fight of the night was because of the action. There was no stopping the forward movement of Fiziev. He was and I picked Diakese to win this one because he's been coming on strong. He looks great. He's a great fighter. He's very creative. But this Fiziev, okay, this guy, he was throwing bombs from the get-go. And at first he was a little tentative, but once he started going and he felt, when he felt Diakese's punches, he started to get a little more bold and a little more aggressive. And then he got really aggressive. And he threw up some body kicks. Man, I mean, they knocked down a tree. You could hear the smacks on Diakese's abs and his ribs and everything else. And he got chewed up, and he was game. He was really game. But this Fiziev, he just kept coming forward, and he was throwing some big bombs. Super exciting fight. And I gave the first 2 rounds clearly to Fiziev. And then Diakese started coming back in the 3rd round, but by that time it was a little too late for him. But he kept Diakese. He tried to keep him at range, but Fiziev just wasn't having it. He was coming in. He was throwing some big punches, and he bloodied up Diakese quite a bit. And I literally saw Diakese kind of break a little bit. He was just like, how am I going to beat this guy? You could almost see it on his face. What do I need to do to beat this guy? He just keeps coming forward. And Diakese hit Fiziev with some really good shots, solid shots on the chin. And at one point, it almost looked like he was rocked a little bit, but then he just came right back and just started moving forward again. And he was doing this, like, bring it, baby, let's go, let's mix this up. And that was an exciting fight from the moment the bell rang to the very end. It was just an exciting fight. No lull in the action. The kind of fight that MMA fans dream about. Really, if you haven't seen it, go back and watch that fight. It was a really good fight. And then let's see who else we had here. And then we had Sergey Spivak, and he won against Carlos Felipe, and that was a pretty good fight. And then we had Arman, I don't know how to pronounce his name, Tarakian, And he had a dominant performance over Davy Ramos, really, really good fight as well. And then we have, this is all on the prelims, you guys. Then we have Amir Albizi, and he was fighting on short notice, like really, really short notice. He came in and I think it was like they gave him, he was like 6 hours notice. I mean, it was ridiculous. And he came in and he won, and he was a good, he's going to be a contender in not too distant future. His striking was really, really good. Movement was great. Lateral movement, head movement was really, really good. Oh, let me go back to Fiziev and Diakese, because one thing I failed to mention was I called it before, and I want to say this as I'm watching the fights, right? I called the move, the Matrix, before Michael Bisping did, about seconds before, but he did one of these. Diakese threw this kick, and Fiziev went back, and like really went back far, and he missed by a mile. And I said, man, that was the Matrix right there. And so I'm sure he's going to get monikered with that, not because of me, but because of Bisping said it. But I beat him to the punch. Anyway, those moves, his head movement was spectacular. So and likewise, Albizi was really good too. And then we had Brett Johns, and he had a decision victory over Montel Jackson. Now, Montel Jackson was the favorite to fight in this prelim, and Brett Johns, I believe he's from where is he from? Not Finland, Wales. He is from Wales, and he came in, and Montel Jackson had humongous reach over this guy, and he was peppering him up pretty good. But Johns just kept moving forward and just really put it on him, and wrestled him, and he kept getting him and getting to the ground. And I almost, I don't think Montel gave up per se, but I just think he couldn't get up, and he kind of gave up the ghost. So I don't know if that's quitting or not quitting. I don't want to say that, because I'm sure he was trying to the very, very end, but he just could not get out of those holes. But his grip, it was weird, because Montel Jackson, they were talking about the size of his hands, and they mentioned that, and he was controlling the wrist of Brett Johns. Like, it was like a vice. He could not get out of that. And so he was forced to fight with one hand, or try and get him in a choke with the other hand, but he cannot get loose of that, his grip. It was the strangest thing. I don't think I've ever seen somebody control the wrist that well before, but he had a vice-like grip, and that Johns could not break out of it. So that was an interesting fight. So he overcame some big odds to beat Montel Jackson, and that was really, really, really great fight too. I like that fight a lot. Joel Alvarez, he came in against Joe Duffy, and Joe Duffy, he's the guy. His claim to fame was he beat Conor McGregor in a fight before the UFC days. So that gave him a big name coming into the UFC, because he beat the notorious one, Conor McGregor. But Joe Duffy didn't look like, he almost didn't look like he wanted to be there. But he's always been kind of a quiet type. He's never, talked a lot of trash or did any of that kind of stuff. But he almost looked like he didn't want to be there, or something was up. But this Yoel Alvarez, he came in, and I think he's a Spanish fighter. I think he's from Spain somewhere. But he came in, and this dude was long. He was strong. His physique was, he kind of towered over Duffy. And I was surprised at the size difference, but he just kept Duffy at bay. His reach was longer, but he kept Duffy at bay. And then he ended up getting a guillotine choke on him, and they stopped it. He tapped out. Duffy tapped out, because he was in a real tight guillotine, and it didn't take long for Duffy to tap out. And shortly after the fight, Duffy did announce his retirement. So he has retired from MMA, and I think that gave him 3 or 4 losses in a row. So you can't take that many losses and continue fighting or feel confident in your fighting. And maybe that's what was hanging in his mind before he went into the fight. That's why I said he looked like something wasn't right, you know. Maybe he put too much pressure on himself that I got to win this fight or I'm out of here. But he retired shortly after that. So Joe Duffy, thank you for the years of being in the UFC, for exciting fights. You beat some really great guys, and you lost to some great guys too. But this newcomer, Yoel Alvarez, man, there's some new talent out there, my friends. You got to check them out because they're going to mix up everything in all the divisions. You got some great debut fights that are just tremendous, and they came to fight. They're like, okay, I'm in the UFC now. I got to put on a show. I got to do it, and I can't hold anything back. And they weren't. This whole card was just really, really good. And then you had Roman Dolidze. I think that's how you pronounce the name, Dolidze. And he came in and he did a number on Kadis Ibragimov. And they're both huge men, big men. That the Russian dude was really big, and Dolidze just kept hammering and peppering that leg, and wow, he just did some damage to this dude. And then he kicked him in the head, or not kicked him in the head, but he kneed him in the head, and that was the beginning of the end. And then it was a ground and pound situation, and that was that. And it was interesting because you know, he was out on his feet. Really, really good fight. But this Roman guy showed a lot of confidence. Was not afraid. He was his movement was interesting because he kept moving back, and I thought, is he afraid to engage? You know, I was just wondering because the Russian dude looked a little bit bigger than Roman, but it wasn't. He was timing. He was waiting. He was measuring, and he was calculating all these things, and then he started to launch his attack, and it was just a stupendous fight. I really enjoyed that fight as well. Powerful kicks. And then next up was Alexandre Pantoja and Askar Askarov. Now, I picked it wrong again on this one. I picked Pantoja to win, and this Askarov, man, he reminded me of the Terminator, the first Terminator, Arnold Schwarzenegger, where, you know, he can't be stopped and he won't stop until you're dead. And Askarov just kept coming forward. There were some some technical grappling matches on the ground with these two. I mean, they were pretzeling each other. They were, you know, flipping each other over as far as being on top or on the bottom. Pantoja can fight well off of his back as well, but Askarov just kept coming. He put so much pressure on Pantoja that, you know, he started to gas, and he started really to gas out. But there was so much stress and strenuous activity from the grappling and the jiu-jitsu and all that stuff on the ground that man, I was tired just watching them. And it was a really, really good fight, super technical fight. A lot of it was on the ground, but that's okay because it was great ground stuff. They weren't just lying there. There was no laying there to catch a breath or you know, hoping that the ref would stand it up. There was just nonstop action the whole fight. And it was probably my my third favorite fight out of all of them. That was a really, really good one. So I picked the wrong one there. But the scrambles between these two guys were just spectacular. Highly recommend you watch that fight if you haven't seen it yet. And then we come up to Ariane Lipski, and she was there to work. I mean, Luana Carolina looked relaxed. She was, you know, leaning against the cage as they were doing the announcements of, you know, announcing the fighters and so forth, and she would look really relaxed. And then when the camera panned over to Lipski, she was just looking, and she wasn't trying to mug her. She wasn't trying to, you know, mean mug her or anything like that. She was just focused, man. And as soon as that bell rang, they came in, and Lipsky just went to work. I mean, it was just an amazing display. And she got her, and they had some really good grappling on the ground. And then Lipsky got into a position where she was on top, and she had grabbed her leg, and she did a knee bar. And when she put the pressure on that heel and that foot and did that knee bar, and it hyperextended her joint, I just cringed, just like, oh. And by that time, you could actually hear Carolina screaming in pain, and the ref was right there and stopped it quick. And I'm glad he did, because any more torque on that knee, she would have broke that leg. I mean, it was bent way in the opposite direction that it should have been. And I cringed, but man, she I think they call her the Destroyer or something like that. Anyway, she went to work, man, and she was not playing any games. And she made her tap quick. So that was another really, really good fight. Let's see. And then we had Jack Hermansson versus Calvin Gastelum. Now that one ended really quick. I thought it was kind of a strange fight, because even listening to Jack Hermansson after in a post-fight interview, he said, yeah, he almost got him in a ankle lock, and Calvin got out of it, scrambled out of it, because they went to the floor. This fight didn't last very long. It was probably 30 seconds, 45 seconds, something like that. But he got out of it, and then he went right back to the ground. And Jack Hermansson, he's great fighting off his back. He loves it. He's all about it. He's great on the feet and on the ground. So any way you want to take it, Jack Hermansson is really good. Now I picked Calvin Gastelum to win this fight. Man, I've been wrong this whole card. Almost. I got a few of them right. But Calvin Gastelum, and then he went right back into the web, so to speak. And Hermansson adjusted his body and grabbed that leg again. And for some reason, for a moment, Gastelum hesitated on pulling his leg out. And Hermansson locked on it. And that was that. It didn't take but a few seconds after that before Calvin was tapping. And in his post-fight response, he said he was really embarrassed. He felt like he let down his team and all that, and he was feeling pretty bad. So I think that puts Calvin at 3 losses in a row, or maybe 4. I'm gonna have to double check that, but I know he's got 3 losses for sure in a row. And now Dana, in his post-fight media scrum, he said, because they asked him if Calvin is, going to kind of be in trouble because he lost so many fights. He goes, he's still going to be in top 10 because he's a beast. And I'm telling you, when they perform and when they're good fighters and when they're exciting fighters, even if they lose 3 in a row, they're not getting cut. It's the ones that maybe have a lackluster performance or they, don't have. There's a lot of factors, in my opinion, that of why somebody gets cut. Okay. But I don't think Calvin's going to get cut from this one. I think he's going to come back. But and he was the one talking about going to the sports psychologist and all that stuff and fighting and overcoming his demons. And he's one of those guys. Unfortunately, in my opinion, in my humble opinion, is I think he's going to be a gatekeeper type of a guy. I don't think he's ever going to be, excel to ascend to the championship level. I think he had a couple of tries at it and he came up short. And this was a big test for him. If he won Hermansson, then he would have been maybe a fight away from another title shot, maybe a fight or 2 away, maybe just 1 though. But Hermansson denied him, and it was dominant. So I think that's going to bump Gastelum down the ranks a little bit. And I don't know. I think he may have missed the boat. You know, I don't see him being a contender for the championship. I just don't see it. So I'm going to put him like, you know, as a gatekeeper, but he's still going to be a beast. It's still going to be super exciting. And the up and comers are going to have to go through him, you know, if they want to get to top contendership. And then the final fight that I want to talk about is the main event fight, and that was Davison Figueiredo and Joseph Benavidez. And Davison, he said, I'm going to go in there and I'm going to crush him. There's not going to be any controversy this time. In fact, I'm going to beat him worse than I did last time. And I'm just going to overpower him. He said step by step what he was going to do. And step by step, he dismantled Benavidez. It was a mauling. Benavidez was outclassed. He tried hard, but you could tell that Figueiredo was just too strong. His punches, I mean, he knocked him down I think at least 3 times from punches to the face. He knocked him down, and one he had kind of hit him on the, like right here on the head somewhere, and it just dropped him. Boom! And the ref was ready to step in, but he wanted to give Benavidez, because he knew this was like Benavidez's last chance at a championship to getting a belt. And and so the ref, man, he let him go through some pain, and I don't blame the ref, because he would have got criticized either way, right? The ref would have got criticized for stopping it too soon, but he did take some additional punishment that people wished he would have stopped it sooner. So, you know, that's one of those no-win situations. But Figueiredo dropped him at least 3 times, and when they were on the ground, there was just no contest. Benavidez was taking a beating, man. He was game. He was all heart. Didn't want to give up. And when he was almost knocked out, then Figueiredo got his back and put him in a chokehold. And I'm like, it's over. And Benavidez would get out of it. And this is when he was knocked half unconscious. And then Figueiredo would release and then get him in another hold and on tight, even on his jaw, because that's really uncomfortable when there's a forearm on your jaw, just pressing it back. Super, super uncomfortable. It's got to hurt like heck. And Benavidez got out of that. And then the last one, it was almost like a corkscrew type of situation where Figueiredo got him and put his arm around Benavidez. He didn't get under the neck at first. And then he was trying to fight the hands, and then he got under the neck and he cinched it down tight. But not only that, but he torqued him, you know, and he torqued, and Benavidez's body was like just torqued in a weird angle. Because he had his both hooks in to Benavidez and just holding him there, but his torso was just torqued, and his head and everything, man. And you could just see, and the ref was right there, you know, just looking right at it. And you could see Benavidez's eyes start to roll up, man. And he was out. And that was the first time in his career that he's been knocked out. And he was out. And then the ref jumped in and pulled Figueiredo off. And that was that. And, you know, I thought that if Benavidez lost this one, especially if he lost, you know, Figueiredo won him in a dominant fashion, that Benavidez would probably, you know, hang up his gloves. But in his post-fight comments, he said, "I ain't going out like that." He wants to go out a winner. So sounds like he's going to fight again. And more power to him. But I'll tell you what, reading all the tweets from the fighters, they always, you know, I read lists of what the pro fighters reaction was to the fight and all that stuff. And a lot of them gave super props to Figueiredo. He was way too strong. And a lot of them just had heartache for Benavidez, because he's been in the game so long. And I wanted him to get a title at least before he retired. But it just wasn't meant to be. Figueiredo brought his game, his A game, his A++ game, and showed no mercy. He showed no mercy. So the other people that are in line, the other fighters in line for flyweight. Oh, and by the way, post-fight with Dana White, the reporter asked him, so what about the flyweight? Are you, we haven't heard this for a little while, but are you going to get rid of the flyweight? And he goes, exactly. You haven't heard me talk about it for a while. And when you got a champion like Figueiredo in there, that, that weight class isn't going anywhere, because there was talk about it a while ago of just getting rid of the weight class. And that ain't happening, because Figueiredo is a monster, man. So there's going to be a lot of fresh contenders. And he is older. He's an older, champion. I think he's 31 or 30, 32 or 33, something like that. So he's not the youngest guy. So there'll be young bucks ready to come up and challenge him at flyweight. But he is strong. He's really, really strong. And he's a good fighter all around. There's just not enough to say about his win. So I'm super stoked about the card. Great fights, really entertaining. And everybody gave it their all. I just, man, I'm looking down through the list of all these fights and the winners and losers, and the UFC is doing it right. They are just doing it right. And the next card should be a really good card. How do you guys get bored of hearing that this card is going to be a really good card? Well, they are. I mean, they're the fighters, the opponents, they're bringing it, man. Like every single one of them are bringing their best games, and that makes for an exciting card. And the international talent that they're starting to find, there's a lot of great fighters out there that nobody's ever heard of. And when they come to, the UFC or Bellator or One Championship or any of the big organizations, particularly the UFC, because they are the biggest organization, the most well-known organization in the world, they're going to get, and nice. The nice thing is too, is as they're fighting during this COVID pandemic, they've got a lot more eyeballs on them. So you can make stars overnight, literally, with these fighters. So there's a whole bunch of great talent out there, and I'm excited for the rest of this year. So the next main card, or the next fight card, is a UFC Fight Night, and that is July 25th. They just keep coming, man. Bring them on. I'm ready. And we got Robert Whitaker versus Darren the Gorilla Till. That's going to be a super middleweight main event. And then we have Mauricio Hua versus Antonio Rogerio Nogueira. And both of these guys are a lot older. I'm surprised that they're still fighting, especially Nogueira, because I think he's retired before and then came back. But there's two Nogueira brothers, so I don't know if one of them did and one of them didn't. But both of these guys are older, but they're super exciting. I mean, Hua is still ranked number 15, and he's got to be in his late 30s or early 40s, and he's still ranked up in the top 15, man. That's amazing. That is really amazing. And then we got Fabricio Verdum versus Alexander Gustafsson. That's going to be a really good fight too. Gustafsson, I'm surprised that this fight is actually happening, because Gustafsson, I think he retired too, and then came back as a heavyweight, because he was a light heavyweight when he fought John Jones. But he's number 7. He's ranked number 7, and Verdum is ranked at number 14. And Verdum, I believe, he's like 44 years old, and he's still fighting. But he's got a big ego, and he wants to prove that he's still got it. And I think that's going to be a really good fight, because I don't think Gustafsson's ground game is as good as Verdum's, but Gustafsson's striking is better than Verdum's as well. So I think that could be an interesting mix-up, and so I'm looking forward to that fight. And then you've got Carla Esparza at the women's strawweight versus Marina Rodriguez. And I'm not sure about Rodriguez. I don't know if I've seen her fight or not. She doesn't look familiar to me. Carla Esparza is a really good wrestler, and she's been hanging in there. She's number 7 in the women's strawweight division. And she always puts on, she's been putting on some really good shows lately. Even she lost one and I think won two recently. And they were all really good fights, close fights too. And then we got Paul Craig and Gads Himarad and Tigulov. I've never seen that guy before. Paul Craig, I've seen him. He either really brings his game or he's like out to lunch. You know, it's one or the other. I don't see any middle ground with Paul Craig. So hopefully he's bringing his A game to Fight Island. And then we have Alex Oliveira and Peter Sabota. And both of those guys are going to be really, really good opponents to each other. Alex is pretty exciting. He's lost a few lately, and he needs to get back on the winning track. And so that's the next card coming up on the 25th of July, 6 p.m. And it's a fight night card, so it's not a pay-per-view. It should be a super, super exciting card. Tune into these, you guys, because these, for some reason, I don't know if it's boredom because they've been trapped and quarantined and all this other stuff, and they want to get out there and they're ready to scrap. I mean, these guys want to scrap. So should be a good fight. And this card, again, I'm going to give this card an A+. The fights are exciting, well-paced, new blood, and new contenders, new stars. I like that. So everything's kind of new and fresh, and it looked really good. And by the way, congratulations to the UFC for putting on these events in the strangest of times. But they're putting on great events, man. All right, so this is Alex coming at you from Knuckle Sandwich MMA. I hope you guys enjoy the show. Leave me any comments. And by the way, I'm working on interviewing a real UFC fighter and another MMA fighter, having them live fight on Knuckle Sandwich MMA. But I'm working on that. So if I can solidify it, I'll let you guys know who it is, so you can do some homework on them and check it out, and then come and watch the show. It should be great. All right, you guys. Well, we are out of here. Have a great Sunday. We'll see you later. Bye-bye.